record locally? Well, it's
Sorry,
not
Philippe.
important. I think you need to record locally instead. If you use a password for this meeting, it's not going to be recorded in the drive.
Yeah, I record locally and then upload manually.
Perfect.
Which is not as efficient. So, yeah, so Matt couldn't make it today because he's at a client advisory board meeting. I posted in Slack, I posted in the meeting. I'm just going to read what Matt said. I think it's really key. Is he met yesterday with the customer that's behind the hard push for standalone vulnerabilities and project level exports in 12.10. They're very pleased and excited by all the progress and understand the challenges we encountered getting into this release. And what I'd say, the sales team has said the same thing. He can't say thank you enough to the team for going above and beyond the effort. It certainly is not and should not be our normal mode of operating. So I wanted to share that the extraordinary efforts were very noticed and deeply appreciated by the customer, the sales organization and beyond. Not only has this gone a long way to rebuild the customer's trust in GitLab as a whole, but more importantly, realizes the long-standing goal of making standalone vulnerabilities a reality. And this was the team that finally made it happen. GitLab, some at GitLab started on this or started thinking about this a year and a half ago, long before any of us at the company were at the company. I think maybe Philippe was here. I don't know if you were involved way back then, but I started 6 months ago. And everybody else started since then, except for the folks on loan from Secure like Ross and Abiel, et cetera. But much appreciated. I think we did an awesome job, and that's my context. Good stuff.
So 13.0, it's happening, right?
Yeah, the last MR that we're waiting on is Ross is actively working on it with help from Jonathan as needed. This is the vulnerability dismissal state migration, which is needed before going live. Matt and Lindsay and I discussed it, and also some on the sales team is if we had gone live without that, customers that had previously manually clicked on hundreds to thousands of vulnerabilities saying this is not an issue for me would have lost that state and would have had to redo that analysis and work, and that was unacceptable, which we all agreed with. So that's in flight right now. We cut the scope of it. It was initially bigger than that. We cut the scope midnight last week, and it's in. I think it was pushed back to the maintainer late yesterday, and I think we're expecting more feedback today. So. It's good stuff overall. Lindsay, or anything to add on the overall where things are, or Ross?
Oh, I've been amazed by everybody's efforts, and I hope that everyone decides to take a couple days off to congratulate yourself on all your hard work. I am. Absolutely. I'll be off on Friday, and so is Wayne.
Yep. And,
we're taking time off to celebrate your hard work too.
Yeah, I know Daniel's out most, if not all, of this week, which is great, and others should take time off too. Absolutely. Ross and Jonathan, did I update the group correctly on the status of that one MR? Anything to add on that?
No, I think you accurately captured the current state. We are trying to get it into a point release, so 12.10.1 or whatever. So I guess we'll see how that goes. That's the only additional item.
Yep. Nope. Good clarification point.
Hey Wayne, do we know if the customer is willing to pick this up in a dot release? And
I don't think we're going to know that until next week, as even if we had it ready today, I think they said that they wouldn't have the engineers on their side ready to run it. They basically they're self-hosted and they run it. They have their own staging environment, and they wouldn't have the engineers available even if we were ready this week to install a dot release, or even 12.10. That would probably be at the earliest next week. So we're going to revisit next week based on the customer's feedback. I think sales is meeting with them every week to talk about the latest status. So why don't we move on? Follow up from previous discussions. Go for it.
I think the 13.0 stuff is mostly populated by myself and Matt. So as everybody's aware, in 13.0, we're not going to be doing a lot of new feature development. We're going to get an opportunity to burn down debt and things that we kind of cut corners on to try and make the 12.10 deadline. There is one exception, which is around introducing the instance level vulnerability export, or sorry, introducing the vulnerability export to the instance level dashboard. So we've already got that groomed and it's assigned. With the exception of that issue, I'm going ahead and not assigning issues to people. So I've put this in the Slack channel. It's here as well. We're going to move to a more Kanban style, especially while we're working through debt. You know, there's an area, if you think something is misprioritized and you think there is a follow-up or a debt issue that's further down the list than it should be, I trust you to reprioritize debt. What I don't want anyone to do is to reprioritize that one feature issue. That is our deliverable for Matt. He's put that on the release video at this point. There might be a little bit more work sitting there in the ready for development column than we're able to complete in 13.0, but we will work to distribute that into future iterations as well. So that's it for the previous follow-ups, basically for A and B for the 13.0.
Cool.
So thank you, Savash and Alexander, for sharing the demos. You know, both are, you know, complete deliverables. Savash showed the, oh, sorry, I was mistaking that for the export. So Savash showed the unconfigured state of the instance level dashboard, and Alexander has a video here for the entire end-to-end of the standalone vulnerability flow. I think we looked at it a little bit together yesterday. There might be a few questions around the standalone page, right, Alexander? There was some, or maybe we were just identifying things that had gotten deferred for 13.0, like if you change the state, you need to refresh the page currently to see some of that history. And we do have issues representing that. So it brings up a good point. If you're looking through that demo and you see any unexpected behavior, try and reproduce it. If you can, create an issue for it, so we're making sure that we're tracking anything. So thank you, Alexander.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I see you.
And I created several issues off of some unexpected behavior that I found as well. So feel free to ping me if you're unsure if you want to create an issue or not, because there might be one already. I'll know.
And everything should be, including Alexander's issues that he created, should be sitting in the ready for dev for 13.0 at this point. Like I said, there's probably more than we can complete there in iteration. So I just put all of the debt there at this point. There might be a few things that we've decided, you know, they're just not needed right now, so they got moved forward to an iteration, but check there first. Wayne, I think the next agenda item is yours. Under the planning breakdown.
Muted.
Thank you. We have quite a few issues. Good thing Zoom warned you on that, as do people, saying, you know, your microphone's picking up sound, but you're on mute. Is that what you intended? So we have quite a few issues in the ready for development state. Should we focus on remaining breakdown on the top priorities? And then start breaking things down further? Basically, do we have enough already in the ready for development state? Just interested in thoughts from the team.
My thought, and everyone correct me if I'm wrong, planning breakdown is really helping PM break down their features into smaller issues. As you guys have created your technical debt issues, most of them are very small. You put sizes on them for me, weights, most of them are 1 to 3. Anything that I've seen that's gotten bigger than that, we've had discussions around breaking them down. Has anyone seen a need to do planning breakdown for the 13.0 debt items versus starting to, you know, maybe in the next week's meeting, while Matt's here doing planning breakdown for future features that'll be going into 13.1 or future iterations. I'm seeing Alexander shake his head a little bit. Aviel's got to shake her head. If anyone has a particular debt issue that is in 13.0 that they want to work with the team to make it smaller or find a way to make it a smaller size, you know, this is a good opportunity to bring that up. I didn't personally see any going through the list, so you guys have done an excellent job of creating well-scoped issues. Okay, so Wayne, I think that answers your question. Oh, go ahead, Savash.
Yeah, I have some slightly related question. Is the board that you prepared, is it already prioritized or?
It's my best guess. So that was my caveat earlier. So the main hard priority is that instance level export is at the top. right? There are some other
Already
sort
started
of
working on that.
back feature with, I think you're aware we had a few items on the security dashboard where we've got some reports that are still backed by findings. I tried to prioritize those higher because they have a customer impact. So it's prioritized to my best, my belief of what's the most important. I've had Matt take a look at it as well, but I think you folks have the better handle on what should maybe be moved around. So for the most part, yes, Savash, but it's free to move around.
Okay, thank you.
All I ask is that if you see that something is missing or maybe shouldn't be in 13.0, put it in the Slack channel so that we can confirm and make sure everyone agrees. Okay, so there were some questions under number 5 here. Matt had a question about linking the vulnerability management.
Sorry, actually, I had a question.
Oh, go ahead, Wayne. Sorry.
Oh, no, wait. Oh, issue, I had it under issue. Yeah, wait a second. Which one are you on? Are you on 5A?
Correct.
Sorry, it was my question for Matt. And Matt's not here, so let's just move to the next meeting. Apologies. So the next one is from Nick.
To find the unmute button. Yeah, so this has to do with the standalone vulnerabilities documentation. So we went ahead and merged the documentation for standalone vulnerabilities. So it is live on the website. The links for what we merged, I've put in the doc. So my question is, should we pull those? Should we add a note? Because right now it says introduced in GitLab 12.10. We could change it to introduce in 13.0 or put a warning saying this is behind a feature flag that is disabled. Axel, I asked Axel and he didn't know. So he's got a question out to on the docs team Slack about what we do in such situations. But I just wanted to, one, kind of bring this to the forefront, and two, see what you all thought.
And just to add, it's not just the standalone vulnerabilities documentation. Someone else put the link in here. It is the export report as well. That's not going to be live in 12.10. So.
Okay.
Does anyone know what standard practice here is? I mean, is it possible to say introduce in GitLab Ultimate in 13.0 and still leave it up here? Or would we be better served to pull it down?
You're looking at me, right?
I am. I'm looking at you, or Ross, or Aviel, to be honest with you. There's 3 people on my screen who may have some experience with this.
It's coming. Yes, the documentation is there a little earlier than what we were expecting. It's there earlier. In a perfect world, it's earlier there than it should be. How much of that is going to be an issue? I mean, it's a preview for customers. For the new stuff, the old stuff, yes, a new user or an existing user who doesn't know the old stuff, will click on and say, wait, this doesn't match what I see, which is not great, but I don't know what's what is normal for GitLab to do in these situations, but it seems like a reasonable situation. We're iteratively improving it. Maybe in hindsight, we should have kept both sets out there and said, this is old and this is new, hindsight being 2020. Not remove the old, just added the new, and said, this is the older, the newer is coming, but I don't think it's a big deal. But what's normal for GitLab, if anybody knows, and then separately from that, what do people expect?
Yeah, I'll try to figure out from the rest of the docs team what's typical, but I mean, it is common that we'll merge stuff before a release and say introduced in whatever that upcoming release is. So, there is a period of time where we're ahead of the game as far as that's concerned. So yeah, I don't think that is too big of a deal. So I could just change it to introduced in 13.0, but yeah, and I did, Andy, I saw your comment on the link. So yeah, I can fix that.
I think in terms of the docs, if it's functionality that's not available, we should be prefacing that. If it's like going to be available in like a week probably not needed, but if it's going to be a milestone, I think we should preface that so we set our expectations and our users' expectations.
Right.
Wouldn't it be possible for us to mention that, hey, this is a behind a feature flag? If you are self-hosted, you could turn on the feature flag?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could make a note that says whatever we want. It's just, yeah, I think deciding what we want is the main thing here. So, yeah, I'll keep up and see if I can get an answer from the docs team on what we typically do in these cases.
Going off of what Wayne said about having like 2 versions up, does GitLab normally do that for if something's changing radically, like you have the old version of the docs and then saying new or starting in this new milestone, things are gonna be like that? Because I would assume some self-hosted people do not keep up to date with the latest code, and so it would be nice for them to be able to see their version. Or is there like a version control for the docs that people can go through?
There's not. We don't version the documentation, so to my knowledge, at least.
I think you can. Actually,
Really?
There's a drop down in docs that you can change the GitLab version you're on. In the drop down, you'll see gitlab.com
At the top of the screen. Yeah.
Huh.
And then you can see version 12.8 all the way down to.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see it now. Yeah, I
Well,
never.
that's
It's fairly new. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll ask about this.
And it was introduced in the past because we had this kind of issue where the documentation was merged before actually seeing the feature, because it was not deployed on gitlab.com, before, I guess, maybe 9 months from now. We were pushing to gitlab.com only once a month. But the documentation was updated right away. So you could see that kind of case where the documentation is there for a feature that is not going to be there until the 22nd of the next month.
Right.
It's different now, but could happen.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Just to clarify, I put this in the document. Andy, did you mean that the vulnerability list links to the vulnerability list? You said dependency list. I was confused by that.
The link in the documentation for the vulnerability list goes to the dependency list.
I see. It's the okay, I see. It's the documentation that's confusing. So the link should, just to be clear, that link shouldn't be there at all, and we haven't issued to remove it. It was added as sort of a temporary measure as we were developing that vulnerability list. So just a heads up for everybody.
Okay, so we should change it to the security dashboard, correct?
Probably.
So it's, well, where it links today is a standalone vulnerability list that doesn't have all the filters and bells and whistles. It's really not supposed to exist on its own.
Okay.
So ultimately, it's going to go away if the documentation, I don't know where the documentation should say.
I mean, we could just call it a vulnerability list and not link anywhere.
I am working on the issue right now of removing the vulnerability list from the side panel, so that, because it's the same thing as security dashboard minus a few things. And so part of that ticket is to update the documentation to remove, I would assume, any reference to the vulnerability list as like a side panel option.
Cool.
If everybody's cool with that.
Perfect.
Sweet.
Thanks, Alexander. When is this not alpha? Good question, Andy.
I think it's been alpha since, I think, Philippe, you started, so.
I think it has to be live to customers to be alpha, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure what not alpha means, though. So, so we could just say,
Pre-alpha?
Yeah.
We can call it beta right now.
It's beta, yeah.
I think Gmail was officially in beta for like 2 or 3 years, if I remember correctly. Even when it had millions of users.
I wonder if it was more than that. It might be for more than 10 years.
Wow.
That's a good.
All right, we don't have any other agenda items. Did anyone else have any topics that they want to bring up today? I think we're good. Just to note, we do have a new schedule for this meeting, so we're alternating. Next week will be in the afternoon. For those folks who are in Europe, we apologize that you won't be able to make it, but please make sure you review the agenda ahead of time and add your thoughts, questions, and we will record and share.
And what I would say is, not only you're encouraged to not come if you're in Europe and it's outside your business hours. Read the document, put in your questions beforehand, look at it afterwards, look at the video, but we want that, we want a good work-life balance. That's why we're alternating the meeting time. So it is not expected that if it's outside your work hours, you come. Please don't. And come every other one. And if that doesn't work, then we might change things and maybe do some weeks do two, one good for Europe, one good for APAC. But keep that in mind.
Thanks again, everyone, for all your hard work.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Have a great day.
Bye.